Hello, and welcome to the fifth edition of our series of Virtual SG based on the Tourist Guides Examinations Singapore. This itinerary, as with all itineraries, begins and ends at Tourism Court. And is a combination of coach and walking sections. For the purpose of this video, only the walking sections will be covered. This is a tour of places of worship. It aims to present the major faiths of Singapore and how each of them are able to coexist and thrive amidst each other. The first stop takes us into the interior of St. Andrew's Cathedral, the oldest Anglican church in Singapore. Our second stop at Chinatown explores the inside of Sri Mariamman Temple and Buddha Tooth Relic Temple. Finally, we drop into Kampong Glam's Sultan Mosque and Bussorah Street. From this tour, participants will gain an understanding of the practices and principles of Protestant Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam. The Christian faith is broadly classified into three major denominations: Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant. All three use the same holy book, the Bible, but have differences in doctrines and practices. Here in Singapore, 12% of Singaporeans are Protestant Christians and 7% Catholics. Together, they form the majority of Christians in Singapore. St. Andrew's Cathedral practices the Anglican branch of Protestant Christianity. Protestant is based on the word protest, specifically against the doctrines and practices of the Catholic Church. As Protestants do not subscribe to tradition, but instead place all power in Scripture, it does not have a pope-like head. Some may argue that the Queen of England presides over the Anglican Church, but the role is largely symbolic when compared to the other two denominations. Protestants differ significantly from other Christian denominations when it comes to rites and sacraments. The Lord's Supper and water baptism are taught by Christ as the two sole sacraments adopted in Protestant Christianity as opposed to 7 defined by others. Icons are also rarely used. Singapore being a British trading port and the British being predominantly Anglican Protestant, St. Andrew's Cathedral is one of the earliest and oldest continuously operating churches in Singapore. As early as 1822 in the Jackson Plan, this site has already been allocated for a church. However, it was not until 1835 that sufficient donations were collected to construct the building, mostly from Scottish merchants. In honor of their contribution, the church took on the name of the Scottish patron saint, St. Andrews. This building today is the second iteration of the church, consecrated in 1862. The building is designed in the Gothic Revival style, also otherwise known as Victorian Gothic. This is most obvious in the style of its belfry, with lancet-shaped windows and elegant spires. As with all things built in that era, the church is a watered-down version of its original design, inspired by the Salisbury Cathedral in England. Whereas the neo-Gothic intent is to make the building seem older and therefore more established than it would be, the lack of skilled labor and material meant that compromises had to be made. So its exterior was covered in white Madras chunam plaster, which Indian convict laborers were experts of making. Before the building, we find a pool facilitating the first of two Anglican Protestant sacraments, the baptism pool. This ceremony, in which a member is submerged in and risen from the pool of water, identifies the member with the death and resurrection of Christ. The main chamber presents several indications of the cathedral's Anglican roots. Chief of the icons is the Canterbury Cross, or Canterbury Stone, symbol of the Anglican Communion. The importance of the sermon is seen by the allocation of the entire nave to the seating of congregation members. Between the altar and transept is an eagle lectern and a pulpit, the latter of which is where the priest delivers his sermon. As a cathedral, the building also houses the bishop's throne. The history of this church and its association with Great Britain meant that its grounds also pay homage to significant persons of early Singapore, including John Crawfurd, Stamford Raffles, and William Butterworth. Here at South Bridge Road in Chinatown, we have the fortune of finding not one, not two, but three religious institutions within walking distance of each other and on the same side. They are Masjid Julia, Sri Mariamman Temple, and the Buddha Tooth Relic Temple. We begin with the South Indian style Sri Mariamman Temple for Hindu devotees. In Singapore, practitioners of Hinduism constitute about 5% of Singapore's residents and are almost entirely of Indian ethnicity. This temple is Singapore's oldest Hindu temple, dating back to the year 1827. In Hindu belief, God takes on many forms and incarnations, depending on context. Broadly speaking, the three main functions cover creation, preservation, and transformation, with different denominations focusing on one over the other. This temple places importance on transformation, as it is dedicated to the family of Shiva, specifically his wife Mariamman. She is his agent, and one will find many temples dedicated to the wives of various gods in Singapore, but not to the gods in their male form, because the males cannot cross the sea out of India. The presence of this temple is clearly enunciated by its six-level tower of deities, also known as Gopuram. The Gopuram, whose figures of Hindu mythology become smaller in size towards the top, is part of an optical illusion sitting atop an imposing door. Its aim is to humble the visitor as he enters the palace of God. Beside the door are shelves in which to place one's shoes and an area to wash one's feet before entering. The entrance is usually guarded by banana trees on the side. They represent Durvasa, a woman who as punishment for waking up the gods was turned into a banana tree. So serious was her misdeed that every part of the banana tree is used as offering to the gods. God's sleep is so important that all Hindu temples, including this one, will close their doors in the afternoon for uninterrupted nap time, lest they turn you into a banana tree. Devotees that come in will wear their best clothes and announce their arrival by ringing a bell on the door. But in Hinduism, the devotee is once removed from God, with prayers said by the priest on their behalf, and this is done so by the purchase of a puja ticket at the puja ticket office. While this temple is dedicated to Mariamman, it is Hindu tradition to first make an offering to Ganesha, the elephant god, before anything else. As the remover of obstacles, devotees pray to Ganesha in the hope that doing so would smooth the way in all their future activities, including prayer to the main god. Mariamman is also the mother goddess against diseases. It is thus not surprising that the first temple in the colony of Singapore is dedicated to her, given the lack of medical facilities in the settlement at the beginning. Mariamman is commonly associated with neem leaves. Legend has it that she cured herself of smallpox using those leaves. In making a prayer through the priest, the devotee also makes an offering of flowers and fruit, usually in the form of garlands, coconut, and bananas. Once a year, devotees have the opportunity to make the ultimate offering of sacrifice, either through the festival of Thimiti or Thaipusam. This temple is a site for the performance of the former, in which devotees would walk across a fire pit. It is said that one's prayers would come true if one is able to perform the deed unscathed. The festival of Thimiti is held on Sunday before Deepavali, another Hindu festival. Down the street is a younger and more recent building dedicated to a religion that also has its origins in India. The Buddha Tooth Relic Temple was only completed in 2007 after the artifact that the temple is named for was received from a monk in Bagan, Myanmar. "31% of Singaporeans identify as Buddhists, making it the largest religion in Singapore. Of the two major schools of Buddhism, this temple practices Mahayana Buddhism, otherwise known as Eastern Buddhism or Chinese Buddhism. The Buddhist religion is closely associated with the concepts of suffering and enlightenment. The Mahayana is a more liberal and inclusive branch of Buddhism that believes anyone is capable of attaining salvation through nirvana. In addition, it has a more collective and selfless intent in helping others attain the same. As a result, the Mahayana Buddhist, while not a monk, can still be personally involved in rituals and meditation. The design of this temple is unusual in the sense that it has a northern Chinese style as opposed to most other temples in Singapore. The entrance is guarded by two figures resembling Chinese magistrates, known more commonly as Guan Yu and Guan Gong, the protector deities. The importance of sound cannot be understated in the philosophy of Mahayana Buddhism. Usually, a drum, a bell, and fish and cloud gongs are present in the temple and speak to all things land, sentient, sea, and air respectively. When struck, the clarity of the sound relieves all beings of their pain by inducing a state of calmness. Similar to Hindu devotees, Buddhists who come to the temple will be respectfully dressed. The main hall is where meditative prayer is held, under the watchful gaze of Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha, as opposed to Gautama Buddha, is the future Buddha, similar somewhat to the second coming in Christianity. Individuals may participate in group meditation in the hall or otherwise engage in individual devotion by dropping coins into 100 bowls along the side of the wall turn by turn as they chant prayers. The act of dropping coins creates a ringing sound similar to the instruments described before. At the same time, the giving of coins is an act of good merit, the accumulation of karma in one's life. A Buddha tooth relic can be found on the fourth level of the building in a 3.5-ton stupa containing 320 kilograms of gold. Being Chinese Buddhism, it goes without saying that Chinese zodiacs would have a part to play in the next hall. With the thousand-armed Bodhisattva Guanyin in the middle, 8 different manifestations of Buddha are assigned as protectors in the respective zodiacs. The rat, the ox, the tiger, the rabbit, the dragon, the snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. The most important day on the calendar of a Buddhist is Vesak Day, which marks the birth, enlightenment, and death of Gautama Buddha. Our last stop takes us to Sultan Mosque. Muslims make up 15% of the total population. While most are ethnic Malays, there is also a sizable ethnic Indian following. This mosque is so named because the land on which it is built was given by the Sultan of Singapore. While the mosque dates back to 1824, around the time the town was organized into ethnic lines by the Jackson Plan, the current Arab-style building was completed in the 1930s to house a growing community of not just residents in the area, but also pilgrims from around the region who were about to embark on their Hajj to Mecca. Funds for its construction came from all sources. This effort is memorialized by the black ring of glass bottles under the dome, which were collected and contributed by the poor. The predominant branch of Islam in Singapore is Sunni Islam, as opposed to Shia Islam, with the schism arising over the differences in the issue of succession after the Prophet's passing. In practice, Sunnis place greater emphasis on religious texts, although both agree on the contents of the Quran, the idea of one God, and the five pillars. The five pillars dictate the duties of a faithful Muslim. They are to pray to one God, to pray 5 times a day, to fast from dawn to dusk during the month of Ramadan, to donate and help the needy, and to perform the pilgrimage known as the Hajj. These five pillars are represented by the five-pointed star. That is the symbol of Islam, alongside a crescent moon to indicate a young and growing religion. The mosque is designed to facilitate the performance of the five pillars. The towering minarets on the four corners of the compound serve to announce the call to prayer. Before stepping into the prayer hall, one will find taps and shelves in which to put one's shoes. The taps enable the pious Muslim to cleanse oneself in a ritual known as wudu, where the hands, face, and forearms and feet are washed. The main hall is usually carpeted and without furniture, as Muslims pray on their knees. It is also simple, so that attention may be focused on the Qibla wall and mihrab, which indicates the direction of prayer towards Mecca. A minbar would also be found in the vicinity. This step platform is the pulpit from which the religious leader or imam leads the congregation in prayer. Another implement of the mosque is the prayer clock, containing 6 times. 5 for the 5 times at which a Muslim should pray for that day, and 1 for Friday prayers. Friday prayers hold particular importance as it is the time that Muslims gather to pray as a group. Two important events hold significant importance in the Singaporean Muslim calendar to warrant a public holiday. The first is the end of the fasting month of Ramadan in a celebration known as Hari Raya Puasa, literally the mega break fast day. This is a time when Muslims wear new clothes and renew bonds with friends and family by visiting each other and asking forgiveness for any misdeeds over the last year. The second event is Hari Raya Haji, which coincides with the performance of the Hajj pilgrimage, and locally is the helping of the needy in a ritual known as the Qurban. Commemorating the act of sacrifice and obedience, valuable livestock such as sheep, goat, or cows are slaughtered, with the meat shared amongst all. In this tour, we have covered the principles and practices of major religions in Singapore. We have seen how these religions are able to coexist and thrive harmoniously with each other. The separation of government from religion ensures that each religion is regarded fairly and that every Singaporean is free to practice his faith. Just like the many denominations and branches of each religion, all religions covered agree and are united on one thing, that we are all Singaporeans. Perhaps one very uniquely Singaporean custom is how leaders of the major faiths would come together to pray in national events. There is certainly more to achieve when we focus on things we agree.